This is an unnamed mine or prospect. We're looking right up this trench. It's approximately 100 feet long. We're looking northeast. It's about, trend's about north 10 east. One of many trenches and prospect pits along this trend. There's an adit at the southwest end of this trend. I'm just going to lump them all together. They're probably related in one way or another. Again, we're looking right up the trench here. The one that I'm just deciding is going to be the northeast end of it. It'll be number 072501. It's quite a large disturbed area overall on this. There's a kind of a knob where we're right on the edge of, and there's a lot of trenches on around this whole area here. We're not going to really spend a lot of time on all of them. We're just going to kind of pick and choose a few of the larger ones, and then go from there. We're just going to move on down the hill to the northeast and just pick up a couple more prospects on down. There's an adit at the far end. We'll grab it on the way by. Here we're looking southwest from that trench we just filmed. Again, you can see it's quite a heavily prospected area. There's a lot of trenches and pits on this trend. It's probably several hundred feet downhill to the south west where we're looking. There's an adit down at the far end of the area that I'm going to lump together. We'll look at one or two trenches on the way down towards that adit. It's a caved adit that's not very significant, but we'll pick it up at the far end of this and then move on. This is again property number 072501. It's an unnamed prospect. It's probably related to some other ones by name around here, but it's very difficult on the map to tell what is located with what. So this will just be considered an unnamed property. So we'll just move on down the hill. We'll look at a couple of the prospects on the way down. Here's another trench that on this same trend, northeast trend, that we're looking at we looked at it from above. We're looking northwest here along the length of the trench. It's not very significant. You can see it's been disturbed on both sides of it, and then right down the slot of the trench. This will be the last one that we'll see before we get down to the adit that's part of this group. This is 072501-1. I didn't add that -1. That's the first property. So we'll just move on down and do that adit now. Again, this whole area has been extensively prospected, trenched and such, and there's no sense in wasting a lot of film on and time on looking at each one of the prospects. It's just quite a long zone that has been heavily prospected. So we'll move on down to the adit now. Here we're looking southwest at that caved adit that I was speaking of. Is built part of this property 072501-1, which is the first property we're looking at here. We're looking, like I said, southwest at the caved adit. We're on the dump at the far northeast end of the dump. It's been moved around, pushed around by a road that goes through here, but we'll take a look at the kind of a side profile of it to see how big it is. It's not really a huge dump, but it does amount to something, so we'll turn around and take a look at it now. Here we're looking east. Here we're looking east at the profile of the dump that from that adit we just looked at, that 072501-1. There again, you can see the road going off to the east. It's just kind of a secondary road off what I consider the main road on the topo map. Here's the flat out in front of the portal, caved portal. Quite a broad area out here that's been pushed around by the road building and such. You can kind of get an idea. It's only about 100 feet out from the portal right to the lip of the dump, and then it goes quite a long distance downhill spread. It's kind of steep here, so it does travel quite a ways downhill. So this will be it for property 072501-1. What we're looking at here is one of the adits for what I believe is the Pettit group. I don't know an official number for it. I'm just going to designate it 072501-2, be the second property looked at. We're looking almost due south. You can see that the trough up there is the adit is pretty well caved. There is some mine rail out in front of it, a couple small pieces of it, plus some minor scrap metal right out what I perceive as the portal. I'm standing out on the dump to the north of where I believe the caved adit is. We'll turn around now and take a look at and see what the dump looks like. It's a fairly extensive dump. It's about 150 feet long and 50 feet wide. We'll turn around from the portal and look at it. Here we're looking out on the dump for what I believe is one of the adits for the Pettit group. This is, again, I don't know an official number for it. What I'm designating it is 072501-2. We're looking basically north. There's a pile of erosion rolls, erosion prevention rolls. They stretch along the hillside after this burn in the area. They've been stockpiled on the dump here. It's quite an extensive dump. It's 150 feet or so long. It's got a trench going down through it on the far side over there. You can see it kind of in the distance. We'll get a look at it going down the hill. It's probably not all that deep. It's on a fairly steep hill, and so it does scatter quite a long distance down. So we'll get a profile of it looking east now and just get a feel for how big it is. Here we're looking east at one of the adits for the Pettit group, what I believe is the Pettit group. I don't know how many adits there are for this group of claims or whatever it is, mine. We're looking at a profile of the dump now as it stretches downhill. It's quite extensive down the hill, but it's not all that deep, maybe 20 or so feet at the most, right in the thickest part, right there, just where the flat breaks. Again, you can see the erosion rolls on the dump there that we had seen before, kind of stockpiled on the one end of the dump, and there's a trench going down, cutting through the dump. You can see those erosion barriers down, kind of stretched across the hillside. See how they have laid them there perpendicular to the slope of the hill after the burn just to prevent erosion. So this will be it for the Pettit group, and I'm just designating it 072501-2 just as the second property looked at today. Again, I don't know how many adits there are on this group. We'll just continue on whichever ones we find and just call them, part of the Pettit or whatever they will be. This is another adit, small adit, caved of course, for the Pettit group. We're looking about south into the cave trench where the adit used to be. I'm standing out on the dump kind of to the north of that. It's real small adit. Like I said, I believe it's part of the Pettit group. I'm not sure. It might be part of the old Chuck claims. It's real confusing. There's so many little dog holes and adits in this area, but we'll consider it the Pettit group, and the number I've assigned it is 072501-2. It's just a continuation of the number 2 that I've been calling here. So like I said, we're looking south at it. We'll turn around and look at the dump, maybe, and get a profile of the dump just to get a feel for how big it is. Here we're looking west at this small adit for the Pettit group, 072501-2. You can see the dump. It's goes out about 50 feet on the flat, and then it goes gradually down the hill. The slope distance is probably in the neighborhood of 30 or 40 feet possibly. It stretches down a ways. You can see the light colored material stretching quite a ways down. It's not a very big dump, so the adit was probably not very big. We're right along an old drill road or logging road or some such to get access in here. So again, we're looking west at this, kind of a profile of the dump at this. We'll go down there's one more lower one to the north of us, and we'll go down and get it now, and it'll also be part of the Pettit group. This is another adit for the Pettit group, I believe. There's an awful lot of them in this area. I'm not real sure if this is it, if it's a Pettit group or not. I'm just designating it 072501-2 right now, just to give it a number to ID it. I'm not sure what the official number is. So we're looking southwest at the caved portal. You can see burn trees in the vicinity of it. We're out on the dump here. It's about 60 feet long and maybe at the most 20 feet wide. We'll turn around and get a look coming out from the cave portal there to get a feel for what the dump looks like. Here we're looking out on the dump, looking northeast at the dump for one of the Pettit group adits. It's probably about 60 feet out there to just about where my pack is on the far side, and it may be at the most 20 feet wide. It's not a very big dump, a bit bigger than the one we'd looked at before to the south. But so we'll get a profile look, and then that will be it for these adits. Here we are again looking at the one of the very small adits for the Pettit group, I believe it is, 072501-2. I'm looking right about where the caved adit is right here. We'll pan across kind of to the north and see a profile for the dump. The lighter colored material there is all dump material. It's scattered quite a ways down the hill, but it's not that big of a dump really. It's a steep hill. There's another drill road down below that just cuts off the nose of the dump. So this will be it for this adit for the Pettit group, 072501-2. This is the third adit in what I'm calling the Pettit group, at least the third adit. I don't know, there's maybe more here that's still, I'm designating it 072501-2. I lack another number to call it. You can see that we're looking right on an old drill road bank, and there's virtually no evidence of the portal and the adit here. You can kind of get a feel looking at it that there's a scarp up there where it is caved, but the road is dug back in there and it's caved down enough that there's virtually no evidence of the adit. The only thing that keyed it off as an adit here is a dump that I'm standing on. It's kind of to the northeast, and we'll take a look at that now just to see. It's a fairly small dump, as most of them along here are. Here we're looking northeast at that small dump I just looked at. It's the third adit, the northernmost one. I believe it's pretty small. Again, here's the road with those erosion barriers in it. The adit presumed location would be right in this area, right on the road bank, into the road bank, and there's really nothing there to really say where it is. It's totally collapsed and covered up there, so there's no hole or anything open. So this will be it for this portion of the Pettit group, and it's 072501-2. This is the portal for the 600 level of the Boise Rochester. It's EC 48, or EC, it's HA 48. It's a metal frame work around the portal. As you can maybe see inside, probably not. It's awfully dark. There is a partial gate in there. It's kind of covering up the concrete that forms the portal. I don't think it's actually locked, but it does not look like you can get in there very easy. There's a little bit of a trickle of water that I think I'll try to sample it It's not very much. There's an awful lot of iron staining and such coming out and staining the grass and the little seep bottom there as it flows out. I'll try to get a sample of it. It's not very much water, and it's just a very, very small seep. So again, we're looking at the portal of the 600 level of the Boise Rochester. We'll turn around and take a view from the portal and look at the dump area and see there's several buildings that occupy this site. Here we're looking out on the dump area of the 600 level of the Boise Rochester. It's quite a large dump, several hundred feet in each direction, at least 150 feet long, and then it's quite wide spread out along the kind of an east-west direction. We can see several buildings that are out on the dump. There's miscellaneous pipe and sample bags, and down just to the east of us here there was a building it looks like that burned. There's a bunch of tin and other scrap metal laying around there. It looks like it was a building at one time. This is just to give an idea of what the dump area looks like. It's quite a large flat with several structures, the fuel tank and other buildings, sheds. There's those straw rolls that they use for erosion barriers on the hillsides around in the burn. So this is it for this part of the Boise Rochester. We'll take a look at the kind of a profile of the dump and see how steep it is. There's not a very good view of the dump, maybe from below, but it's kind of difficult to get a view of it. So we'll go over and try that and then move on. Here's another view of the dump for the Boise Rochester, the 600 level. We're looking kind of, well, basically south or northeast, kind of looking into along the dump there, and you can see some of them buildings on a different angle than we saw before. Again, right around, and then there's the portal that we were looking at before, with the metal frame around it. We'll maybe get one more perspective of this, and then that's it. Here we're looking basically west at the kind of the face of the dump for the Boise Rochester. It is quite steep face. It goes down and it probably approaches the creek down below, but crawling down there, it didn't look like it really impacted the creek or vice versa in a significant manner. So no samples were taken upstream and downstream or of the dump. It's all fairly coarse material, but I didn't take any samples because I didn't feel that the dump really impacted it that terrible much. It may to a very slight extent, but not nearly enough to worry about, that I feel. Again, here's another perspective, some of the buildings, and this pile of samples and such going on up the road that leads away from the 600 level of the Boise Rochester. So this will be it for this adit. There's one more adit that I'm going to include in the 600 level of the Boise Rochester. It's not the 600 level proper. It's just an adit that's real close by that I will include in this property. This is a small adit that's just to the southeast of the 600 level of the Boise Rochester, HA 48. I'm not sure if it's truly associated with it. It's so close that it no doubt is part of this property, and just to kind of combine a few of these things, I'm adding this to it. It's a totally collapsed at it. You can see the trench going back up the hill, almost due north from what we're looking here. It's essentially parallel to what the 600 level on the Boise Rochester 600 looked like, about the same direction. There's not much to see here. We'll turn around and look down the dump. It's about 65 feet long and maybe 20 or so feet wide. It comes out and it's on a fairly steep hill, and it just bails right straight off down to the road that leads up here, up Montezuma Creek. So we'll turn around and look east along the dump to see what it looks like. Here we're looking east approximately along the dump from this small caved adit that's associated with the Rochester 600, Boise Rochester 600 level. It's about 65 feet from where I'm standing out there, about where the light colored material goes away into the trees. It bails off, and that's about the end of it, about 65 feet from here. You can see it's a real steep face on the dump. It goes down to the main road, which is that light patch down there. Is a switchback that goes down Montezuma Creek, and it's not that much of a dump. It's probably at the most about 10 feet deep average, so there's not really a lot here. So this will be it for the Boise Rochester 600 level. We'll go down to the 900 level now, which is just below us on the road. Just for completeness sake, on the Boise Rochester 600 level, we're looking back to the west up towards the portal for the 600 level, and we're kind of right below that small adit, that caved one that was just done that was right above the road leading to the 600 level. This is a burned building of some sort. I don't know what it was. Just now it's just a big pile of scrap metal, tin siding and roofing and such. Going right, it's just below the road heading towards the 600 level of the Boise Rochester. So just for completeness sake, I threw this in. We'll just pan around and see where that small adit that we just did above the road, that light material stuff we're looking at now, is the dump that bleeds down right to the road almost. It goes off into the trees there. The portal would be just right about straight in the center of the photo, but up on the lip of the dump. So this will be it for the 600 level of the Boise Rochester. This is the 900 level of the Boise Rochester. We're looking southeast at the portal of the 900 level. As you can see, there's quite a bit of water standing outside here, and there's a stream flowing approximately 5 gallons, maybe a little more gallons a minute, out of the portal. It is locked and gated, I believe, back in there. I didn't wade back in to see, but there is a gate, and it looks like it's locked. It's only about maybe as much as 10 feet back is where that gate is, and it looks fairly secure. There is a fairly decent stream flowing out of the portal. We'll turn around and look at the dump area and where the stream is going. There's a little settling pond where the water comes out and settles before it goes on into the main creek. Here we're looking northwest from the portal of the 900 level of the Boise Rochester. It's HA 48. There's a fairly decent stream flowing out of there. Right at the portal, it's just deep standing water, but then it starts to go downhill a little bit and picks up speed. And there's a pretty good stream. And down on the edge of the dump, there's a settling pond of some sort that the water goes through before it goes in, discharges into the main Montezuma Creek. I'm not sure what the purpose of that pond is. Maybe just to settle out the iron oxide material that is quite abundant and very apparent with the reddish color of the water and the sediment that's in the stream. So we'll just pan around kind of to the northwest and just look at the size of the dump. It's a very, very large dump. It may have been spread out substantially, I'm not sure, but it's about 300 feet long and 200 feet wide, and there's a large brush pile kind of right down the middle, or the 1/3 edge of it. What it does there, I'm not sure. Maybe erosion control, but it stretched out along there for some reason, kind of a little bit of a bank in there, and it's packed up against it. So this we'll look at the dump from down below, and then that'll be it. In the distance, you can see a cabin over there. That's the main Talachi camp, apparently where most everybody lived when they worked at this mine. There's one building standing, and there's several others over there that have fallen down. That's just to the northwest of us here, across Montezuma Creek. We won't go over and look at it though, but we'll look at the lower end of the dump as we go by it, that kind of to the northwest of us here. What we're looking at here is the lower end of the dump for the 900 level on the Boise Rochester, HA 48. We're looking kind of almost straight east, or straight west, I'm sorry, at the lower end. It's been contoured and modified quite a bit with cat work. You can see the brush piles along up by where we saw before, just out of the portal. Not much to see. Montezuma Creek runs right real close to the lower edge of it. And it probably impacts it to a certain extent, but it's hard to say just how much. And no stream samples were taken, or dump samples were taken. I'm sure that there are several of those already exist, and it would be redundant. So this will be it for the Boise Rochester HA 48. One more note for the Boise Rochester. What we're looking at here, we're looking almost north at the mill that's right adjacent to the dump, the lower part of the dump to the northwest of the Boise Rochester 900 level. You can see it's been burned. There's an awful lot of scrap metal around. It's I presume it's on dump material itself. See where the gravity mill was up on the hill up here, going up away from the lower part here, going up. It's all the wood structure is burned. All that's left is some concrete footings. There's not really much here. I don't know about mill tailings. I never really saw any. I think they have been moved out of here down the creek to a tailings area, storage area that will be dealt with later. But this is just one more footnote to the Boise Rochester. This is the mill that is right adjacent to the tailings to the northwest of the big tailings dump. So this will be it for the Boise Rochester HA 48. Here we're looking southeast at a small caved adit. It's just to the west of the Boise Rochester 600 level. It's a very minor caved adit. It's on the map as just below the road that goes basically straight west out of the Boise Rochester 600. Not much to see. You can, the trench goes back in there, pretty minor. We'll take a look at the dump. It's only about 10 to 15 feet long, so obviously it's not a very big property here, so we'll just take a kind of a side view of the dump just to get an idea of how much material was taken out of this site. Here we're looking west at this small dump. The number will be a separate number. It'll be 07250101, be the first one for the 26th. You can see it's not very much. It just goes out a little ways, and my pack is right basically at the portal where it used to be. It's just a little hole in the hill with a very minor dump. So this will be it for 07260101. What we're looking at here is another collapsed adit. I'm designating this 07260102. The second one I looked at, it may be related to the other one. It's kind of on a north-south line. Everything to the west of the Boise Rochester 600 level. This is probably a little above elevation-wise than the Boise Rochester, but it's just another small collapsed adit. You can see the trench going away where the adit collapsed. We'll turn around and take a look at the dump from where the former portal was and get a kind of a perspective of what the dump is, and then we'll look at a profile for that. Here we're standing at the former portal for this small collapsed adit, 07260102. We're looking basically straight north from the portal. The portal goes back into the hill essentially to the south, maybe a little bit to the southwest, but essentially straight south. You can see it's a very small flat out in front of the portal, very small dump. We'll get a side shot of the just a profile of the dump to see what it looks like, just to give a perspective of how small it truly is. Here we're looking west at this little collapsed adit. It's 07260102. Looking kind of at a profile of the dump. You can see it doesn't go very far down the hill. It's not a real steep hill, and it doesn't travel very far. Pretty shallow slope on the nose of the dump. It only comes out about the most 20 feet from the portal. The portal will be back up in the grass and the trees there. You can see that it's been pretty well burned over in this area, and the trees on the dump have all been burned. So this will be it for 07260102. What we're looking at here is one of the caved adits for what I believe is the John Bascom lode. It wasn't on the map. It just is right below the road that comes from the Boise Rochester mine. We're looking almost due south. The number of this property will be 7260104 until we can find an official number for it, and that's what it'll be designated. There's a bit of water, 3 to 5 gallons a minute, flowing out of there. There's a little pond built right at the portal. You can see all the algae growing up in there and such, and a nice little stream flowing away. They built a pond there, and then the water is diverted around the dump. I'm standing on the dump to the north of the portal, and you really can't say that the water flows through the dump or even really impinges on it. It goes around the edge of it and on down the draw. It's not a very big dump. It's maybe as much as 45 feet long, and maybe as much as 20 feet wide at the widest. The draw used to cut through it. There you look at a slot where the water probably was draining down through the dump and cut it, but at this point it's no longer draining down through it. So no dump samples or downstream samples. There's no seeps coming out of the toe of the dump, and the water probably does reach Montezuma Creek eventually, but it's quite a long distance down, and no samples will be taken at that point. So we'll turn around and take a look at the dump now, kind of a profile looking mostly west, a little bit north and west, and see just how big the dump really is. Here we're looking north and west at the John Bascom lode, one of the adits. It'll be designated 7260104 at this point. Again, here's the pond. It's got a piece of plastic pipe coming out of it. Looks like maybe it was a water source for somebody down below. There's other pipe up in there and some screen and such. It's right brushed in it. The portal itself is real brushy, as you can see in the last view. You can't get right back in to see really where the portal was, but I assume that the water is essentially coming out of it. It may not be, but to get back in the alders is a little difficult to see if that is where it's coming from. Anyway, we're looking northwest and along the dump, about where the light colored material ends. That's where the dump breaks off and goes on down the hill. It's not very big dump. It's about 60 or 45 feet long, maybe at the widest. It goes on down a ways, so maybe a total of 65 feet out, horizontal extent from the portal. And we'll get up on the dump and look where the stream used to cut the dump, but no longer does. This pond kind of diverts the water around it and goes on down the valley. So now we'll look at the dump from right on top of it, about the middle of the view we're looking at now, just to see what that cut looks like. Here we're right at the north end of the dump on the first adit for the John Bascom lode, 7260104. We're looking at pretty much where the water probably for the draw cut down right through the middle of the dump or through the edge of it. Anyway, there's a scarp on the other side where it obviously was cut away, and a bit of dump material did flow down the valley. We're looking right down the face of the dump here, down at the toe pretty much, and going on down the valley, looking at the Montezuma Creek. Would be a long ways in the distance there, pretty much straight north of us. I'm not going to bother with taking upstream, downstream samples down there. It's such a long distance that if the water turns out bad here, we may think about that, but at this point, that's probably unnecessary. So again, we're about 40 feet north of the portal, out on the dump. Looking here, we're looking almost due north, and just to see how the dump did impact the stream, and it's been diverted around, so it no longer cuts the dump material. So this will be it for adit 1 of the John Bascom mine. It's 07260104. There's probably a few more adits, at least 2 more shown on the map, and those will be dealt with as we come to them. This is a continuation of the first adit or the property for the John Bascom lode. That's 726-0104. We're looking southeast along a trench, a large trench that's it's probably 200 feet north of the adit, for that first adit for the John Bascom lode. It's probably 200 or 300 feet long, quite a large trench, maybe as much as 20 feet deep. We're looking right down it here. We'll turn around and look at the outlet of it, about where I'm standing on an old drill road. There's a large water tank there, and we'll just get a little bit of a view of it, and then that will be it for this part of the John Bascom lode. Here we're looking back to the southeast, mostly east, back towards the first portal for the John Bascom lode, that 726-0104. Here's that large water tank I mentioned. It's got the top cut out of it, and a plastic hose going in. It comes from that spring or the water that's discharging from the adit. And then there's an outlet hose here. That's about all the hose. There's a little bit that comes along the road that I'm standing on, and then it gets melted off. I don't know how far down the hill it goes. I'm not sure what the source of the water was for, possibly for drilling or some other purpose. I'm not sure, but anyway, this just kind of for completeness. There's one large trench here, and there's a few prospect pits in the area, very few. This large trench is the most significant feature that I'm considering part of this adit for the John Bascom lode. So this will be it. We'll go on up to the other adits that are associated with this property. What we're looking at here is a large trench. What I believe it's at the site of the John Bascom lode. It's designated 0726-0104. We're on the far eastern edge of this trench, looking essentially straight west. I believe this large disturbed area where we're at here is the site of the second adit, but I'm not really sure. That it looks like a dump down below, but it might be just the debris from the trenching. But it's I believe that the adit is completely destroyed, the portal there anyway, and trying to find where it goes in. I'm not real sure where it is, but I believe this is the second adit for the John Bascom lode. I'm not totally convinced of it because I can't really find the site of the adit, but I believe this is it. And really, this is a shot that shows it the best. We'll kind of try to get a look at what the dump looks like, if possible. I'm not even sure if it's a dump, if it's just the debris from the dozer trench here. The trench is about 20 feet wide at the widest, and probably 200 plus feet long in an east-west direction. So we'll take a look at the dump now, or whatever it is, at least the spoils pile that goes down off the hill, and then will be it for the second adit. Here we're just a little bit farther east of that last shot for the John Bascom lode. The second adit, the proposed adit, I'm not real sure if that's where it is. It's very difficult to get a perspective of what this dump looks like. We're kind of looking at the face of it. Along here, I was standing on that mound there, taking the shot before it. The dump goes down the hill quite a long distance, probably 40 or 50 feet. It's a fairly steep hillside. There's really not a lot to see. It's very hard to get a perspective even from below with the trees and such in the way. So this will be it for the second adit of the John Bascom lode. It's 7/26/01/04. What we're looking at here is what I'm considering the third adit, and I believe the final adit for the John Bascom lode. It's designated 7/26/01/04 for lack of a better number. We're looking to basically due west at it. It's a completely collapsed. There's a little bit of a scarp up there, right, kind of in the center in the high part of the view. It must not have been very much of an adit due to the fact that the dump is nearly insignificant. Can't really even see the dump per se. It's been burned pretty heavily right here, and it's may have just eroded down the hill. The only real indication is this small seep of water that's coming out of there. Not enough to sample. I tried to get a couple little pools to get a sample bottle underneath it, and it was just all churned up with mud and debris, and I never bothered with trying to sample it. After that, I don't believe it would be that good of a sample. There's way less than a gallon a minute, maybe even less than a half a gallon a minute flowing out of this, what I believe is a collapsed adit. So this we'll turn around and look what I think is maybe the dump, but again, I don't think this is a very big adit, and the dump is, you know, very insignificant. So we'll turn around and take a look at that. Now what we're looking is basically north at the what I think is probably the dump for this very small adit for the John Bascom lode. This will be the third and final one, I believe, that's on this property. As you can see, that light stuff out there, that's probably dump material, but again, it's been burned very heavily right here, and I can't really tell. The dump really doesn't make a mound out on the side of the hill. It may have just eroded down, or it may just not have been very big at all. The only real indication, again, is this seep of water that I got coming out of it. Again, it's not sampleable just due to the volume of water. There's probably, you know, way less than a gallon a minute, maybe less than a half a gallon a minute. So this will be it for the John Bascom lode, 7/26/01/04. Here we're looking at a collapsed adit. It's an unnamed mine. I'm designating it 07/26/01/06. We're right on the road. It's the road that heads to the Monarch mine. The road looks like it pretty much destroyed what was ever here of the adit. There's a dump down below the road. We'll take a look at that. The road goes right across the portal, and then across part of the dump, I assume, is what it looks like. Again, we're looking almost due east at the portal, right on the edge of the road to the Monarch. We'll turn around and look basically to the west or east, and look at the dump now and see what it looks like. Here we're standing on the dump, or on the road above the dump for this unnamed mine. Again, the road looks like it pretty well destroyed the portal and the adit, and you can't really see. My pack is out at the far end of the dump. It's maybe 25 feet long. This is about the best view of it. We can't really get a profile look that does any good. It's awfully brushy. Trees growing in near this portion of the hill didn't burn very much, and it's real brushy in here. So this will be it for this unnamed mine, 7260106. This is an unnamed mine or prospect. It's a small collapsed portal or adit. We're looking southeast or almost due east here at the kind of the trough uphill. The road to the Monarch mine is just above us to the east. We're kind of between two roads, and it really doesn't show much. You can just see in the brush there, and possibly a slot going up the hill there, just a small trough. We'll turn around and take a look at the dump now. It's not very long. It may be as much as 40 feet, but it's really narrow. So there wasn't much material taken out of here. Here we're looking to the northwest now from the supposed portal of this adit. It's 7260107. It's only about, at the very most, 40 feet out to the edge. Probably not quite that much. It does break down the hill quite a bit. It's a fairly steep hill that it's on. So we'll go around and look at a profile view of it if we can get a decent view to give a perspective of what the size of the dump is. Here we're looking north at that dump for 7260107. It's mostly a profile view. See the light colored material bleeding down the hillside. It's fairly steep here. It didn't travel very far, and the dump is not all that big. You can possibly see my pack in the bushes in there. It's kind of right in the middle of the dump, part way from the portal out to the edge. Again, it's not a very big dump. It's only about 10 feet wide at the widest at top, and then it bleeds down the hill a little ways, not all that far. And we're just below the road that heads to the Monarch mine. So this will be it for this portal. There's another one on to the south of us here. It's I'll just combine this one and the other one there. It's, again, the number is 7260107. Here we're looking almost due east at the second adit for 7260107. This is the southernmost of the two. We're looking at the collapsed adit, of course. Here it's just a trough going up the hillside. There's another little depression up above that it either the adit collapsed down or they started digging up there again, but it doesn't really amount to much. There's no opening whatsoever. We'll turn around and look at the dump now. It's pretty brushy. This part of the area didn't burn, and the trees are pretty thick and the brush is pretty thick in here, but we'll still turn around and look and see what the dump looks like. Here we're just barely north of the portal to that collapsed adit for 7/26/01/07. There's a bit of scrap metal laying on the dump right outside the portal. Not very much, just 2 or 3 pieces. Some framework of some sort there. Not very little scrap metal at all. We'll pan around going back to the west and see. You can see the dump is fairly flat. It's about 50 feet long from the portal out. Then it breaks steeply down the hill to the road that goes to the Monarch mine. There's 2 roads. We're between them. One of them goes above the Monarch, and this road below us, to the west of us, goes to the Monarch directly. But so anyway, this just gives you kind of an idea what the dump looks like. We'll go look at the face of the dump and down to the road to the Monarch now. Here we're right on the face of the dump to the south, on the south side of that 7/26/01/07, that second adit that to the south. We're looking basically straight south. We're looking down the slope of the dump. It's a pretty steep hill going down. The road in the background there, that's the road to the Monarch mine. That dump is not all that deep here. It's maybe at the most 10 feet, but it's on a very steep slope. This gives you a little bit of perspective of just how steep it is and how big the dump is. So this will be it for 7/26/01/07. What we're looking at here is the partially collapsed portal to an unnamed mine. It's HA87. We're looking basically southwest from the dump at the collapsed adit there. If you right up here, kind of close, we'll get a closer look and look down inside. It's an opening big enough to get in. Once we get up there, you'll be able to see that the face here is collapsed down a little bit, and so there's a big pile of rocks and jumble right in front, but it is accessible. There's a boiler standing vertical right outside the portal. In pretty good shape. It's the base has been filled in with the stuff sloughed off the hillside there. But other than that, it's in pretty good shape, standing right outside the portal. So we'll get up close by there and look down inside the hole so you can see what how big the opening is. Here we're looking down into that open adit, that HA87. As you can see, it is open down in there. I don't know if you can see very well. It's caved back in. I crawled down just right to about where the rocks come down. It looks fairly unstable in there, and there's a few timbers laying around, but I didn't go on inside, so it's hard to say just how far back it goes. The dump is not very large. It's probably at the most 40 feet long from the position I'm at here on out to where it falls off the hill. It's a very steep hill, and so I'm sure a bulk of the material just went on down the slope, but there's no real good perspective to see how big it really is. So we'll turn around and take a look at the flat that's right outside the portal, and that will be it for this one. Here we're looking right outside the portal to HA87. We're looking at the dump kind of northeast from the portal, north and northeast. As you can see, all that brush out there, there's no good perspective to get to view the dump very well. Kind of a small flat right outside the portal. Again, here's that boiler that I saw in the other view. The road is basically brushed in right close by here. We're looking basically the direction the road comes from on the ridge that comes up from Trail Creek. So this will be basically it for HA87. Not a lot to see here. We pretty much covered all of it just by looking at the open portal. So that will be it for HA87. What we're looking at here is a small cabin that's just above the road that's on the way to that mine HA87. It is just for completeness sake. There are a few little very minor prospects in this area, and this cabin is probably related to the activity in here, the prospecting in that little bit of a mine. So we're looking at basically east at the door of the cabin. It's basically standing. The roof is in poor shape, but other than that, it's pretty good shape. This is the road right here. Again, looking east, we're heading back down towards Trail Creek. So just for completeness sake, this little cabin is probably related to that mine that I just videoed, HA87. So this will be it for that. This is an unnamed site. Its number will be E80101-1. We're looking approximately south. It's a large flat area just about where the confluence of Decker Creek and the Yuba River come together. It's just below the confluence and above the road that goes up the Yuba River and then on up Decker Creek. Again, we're looking south on this large flat. There's some multiple pits right on the west side of the flat. I'm not sure what they're all about. The same size, probably 4, 5, 6 feet in diameter and a couple feet deep. They just run right along parallel to the road. A whole series of them. It's hard to say exactly what they are, but they pretty uniformly spaced and uniform size going along the one edge of the dump. They may have been for samples. This may be tailings of some sort. There may have been a mill here. We'll turn around and look more to the east and see what brought our interest into this area. There's a large retaining wall here. We're turning around more to the east. Again, if you look up into the shadows there, it's kind of hard to see, but there's about a 4 or 5 foot rock retaining wall right at the foot of the hill. We'll go up and get a little bit better look at it. There are a series of terraces, as you can probably see, sort of coming up the hill up to that retaining wall. We'll get a little better look at those also. We'll turn around and look back to the north and from up about on one of those terraces. Here we're on the north end of that flat, and just above it on the east side, you can see we're the flat down here working along basically to the east. We're looking right parallel to one of the terraces. You get on up, there's another terrace, and there's that retaining wall that we saw from the other side. Kind of a nice hand set rock wall just right along the foot of the hill there. It's hard to say what it was for. If there was a mill here, it was a very small one. There's nothing really above this, no superstructure on up there or any indication of a mill, and it's real hard to say exactly what was the purpose of all this work here. But just to document what we saw, that it could conceivably have been a mill or some kind of a site like that. And this may be tailings. I don't think so. I dug around in there and it doesn't really look like any kind of mill tailings, either jig or flotation tails. So no sample was taken here, but we have the site documented and located, and that should be sufficient for right now. So this will be it for site E80101-1. What we're looking at here is a collapsed adit. We're looking kind of where the portal used to be. This will be site E80101-2. We're looking southwest at the collapsed adit. I'm standing out on the dump. The topography here is very subdued. It's just right at where the slope starts going away from the Yuba River, and so the dump, we'll get back and take a look at it. It's not very big. It's probably no more than about 45-50 feet long, and maybe that wide. It's kind of spread out along the slope. So we'll go get a look at we'll take a look at the dump from the portal, and then take a look at the toe of it. Here we're looking northeast out onto the dump from where the collapsed portal is on this unnamed mine. It's 080101-2. You can see it's pretty brushed in, a little bit of burned trees, kind of a small flat. We'll get a look out on the toe of it, about where the light material ends there. That's pretty much the end of the dump as it comes away from the portal. So we'll take a look back, kind of pointing south, and look and see what the size of the dump, how thick it is and such. Here we're looking south, basically at the kind of the toe of the dump. As you can see where the white material is there, the dump material, it just goes out. It's very low topography right here. It's very, very slight slope. You can see there's a lobe that goes on out a little ways. Not sure what was going on there, but there's another lobe. Looks like possibly a more recent one right there above where my pack is above it. And then right back up into where the adit is, where the collapsed portal there. We're looking back up into the hillside. So this will be it for E80101-2. Here we're looking at a caved adit. We're looking northeast at what is really left of the portal in the adit. It's caved completely, and the hill is so steep I think it just covered right over the top of it. This will be property number E80201-1. Again, we're looking northeast at what I believe is what's left of it. The dump is very, very small. We'll get a side view of it, kind of looking to the northwest to get an idea of how small it really is, and then look at the tailings, or the dump material as it smears downhill. Here we're looking northwest at that dump that we were standing on there. It's a very small flat. It's only about 10 or so feet out from the hill. We're looking northwest. Again, this is E80201-1, and here we're looking up the hill where I presume the adit was, and this white material we're looking at there, that's the dump material looking down the slope to the southwest. We'll take a look down the hill at that now. Here we're on the dump looking down the slope on this small property. It's 80201-1. We're looking basically to the southwest here, right down the slope. As you can see, it's a very steep slope. I believe that you can kind of pick up on that. You see the white material as it smears way on down into the distance there. So this will be it for this property, 80201-1. This is property number E80201-2. We're looking southeast at a caved adit. You can see the trench that's left of the adit going on up the hill to the southeast. We're out on the dump. It's about a 25 foot by 25 foot dump, very small. It's located on the map kind of in the approximately right location. I couldn't find anything else on this hillside that would be what I would consider this adit here. So we'll just consider this one of them that's shown on the map. It's an unnamed one, so it's just got a number designation. So we'll turn around and look back to the northwest now and see what the dump looks like. It's a very small dump. We'll get a good view of it. Again, this is property E80201-2. We're looking northwest now. We're up kind of in that trench where the adit has caved. You can see it's a very small dump, kind of flat. It's about 25 feet by 25 feet, and doesn't really amount to very much. It goes down the hill quite a ways. It's fairly steep slope here, but it doesn't travel all that much, so I don't think it's a very significant adit. So this will be, we'll take one side view of the dump, kind of looking to the east to get an idea of a profile to see how thick it really is. It's not a very big dump. Here we're looking again at that property E80201-2. We're kind of looking to the east here. You can see the dump material does travel down. It's probably no more than about 10 feet thick at the very thickest. See my pack there is. Here's another view of the dump for that E80201-2. It's fairly flat for about 25 feet from the portal and then travels downhill. So this will be it for this property, E80201-2. This is the second adit for the property E80201-2. It's just downhill and to the north of the second one, or the first one we did. Other one was real minor. This one here is a little more significant in that it does have a bit of water running out of it, 1 to 2 gallons a minute. Very small stream discharging from it. The dump area is very insignificant. I can't really tell where the dump is. I think it may have just slid all down the hill. We'll turn around and take a look at that a little bit, and just to see that it really doesn't amount to much. This stream may have cut down through it, but I don't really think so. The pH and conductivity are very low, so it's not, or the pH is above 7 anyway, so it's fairly decent. So we'll take a look around and look at the dump area. Again, we're looking basically to the southeast, right up the trench where the adit has collapsed and the water is running out of the presumed portal of the adit. So we'll turn around and look basically to the east and see what the dump area looks like. Here we're looking to the east on this second adit for property E80201-2. You can see where the slot for the collapsed adit is there, and see the water again, the very minor stream running out of the where the adit or the portal used to be. So we're just kind of panning along the dump area. Again, it's a fairly steep slope here, not terribly steep, but the dump area really does not amount to much. So the adit truly probably did not go back very far. It's probably just a very small, more or less prospecting adit. So it really, the dump area is pretty well spread out and on the lower part of the slope here, so it really didn't amount to much. And the water does cut down through it. I presume that it's cut down through it, but I didn't bother with a dump sample. The material is very clean, basically granite with a minor quartz vein material in it. So this will be it for the second adit, E80201-2. This is an unnamed mine. It's a collapsed adit. It'll be designated E80201-4. We're looking almost west, but a little northwest here at the collapsed adit. You can see the trough going up away from us, the trench that's left when the adit collapsed. It's not very significant. It's just one that was located on the map, and we're just documenting that it's here, and this is what it really is, it amounts to. So we'll get a shot back on the dump to see what it looks like. Here we're looking just a little southeast, mostly east, at the dump for this E80201-4. We're again looking out on the dump. It's about 35 feet from where I'm standing, from right where the portal used to be. It doesn't go out all that far, 35 feet maybe 15 feet wide. It's pretty small dump. This whole area has got abundant little prospect pits and almost pseudo adits. They started digging into the hill, and there's a lot of little dumps. You know, they might just be pits into the hill. They weren't adits, and I never dealt with all of them. There's just, the whole hillside here is just peppered with them. The north side of this ridge that comes from the Monarch mine, there's a huge bunch of trenches up on the ridge itself. They cut across, trying to cut probably the Atlanta lode zone. So we'll get a shot of the dump, kind of a profile looking basically south, to just get a perspective of how big it really is. Here we're looking pretty much straight south at a profile of the dump that we just did, that 80201-4. Again, you can see my pack there is right on almost on the lip of the dump, right out on the edge. It's just outside the portal, and then the dump goes out just a little further past my pack and then dribbles down the hill a ways. It's probably maybe 40 feet on the slope going down the hill, but it's only 35 feet on the flat, and then about 15 feet wide. So this will be it for site E80201-4. What we're looking at here is a small trench. It showed on the map as possible adit, like out on the end of this ridge, kind of west of the Monarch mine, quite a ways out, a mile or so. It will be designated E8020105. There's a series of 4 trenches, kind of pseudo adits, I suppose. We'll look at each one of them. This is the westernmost, and we'll just work our way to the east. There's 2 of them on the western end that are pretty close together, and we'll look at the next one to the west or to the east, and then move on to the next set. Now here's another one of these small trenches. They're pseudo adits. They've got dumps on them where the material was brought out, but they're really, I don't believe that there are any indication that they're true adits. As you can see the skyline here. We're almost on the ridge top. I think they're just more or less prospect trenches, hand dug prospect trenches, right on the ridge top. Again, we're looking basically to the northeast here a little bit, mostly north, but a little northeast. You can see a little bit of quartz vein material down in the bottom of that trench. And this is again property E8020105, and we'll just move on to the east to another set. Here's the 3rd trench in that group for property E8020105. We're on the 3rd trench again. It's the 3rd coming towards the east. We started on the west. Trench 1 would be on the far western end. Here we're looking almost due north at the trench. They're very small, probably no more than about 6-8 feet deep, if you just take the absolute deepest part of the trenches. So they're very small, more or less just hand dug trenches, prospects along this ridge here. So we'll go to trench 4, which is the easternmost in this sequence. Again, this is property E8020105. This is the easternmost trench. It's very, very minor. There is stockwork quartz and quartz vein material all over the dumps on these little trenches, but they're very, very small. Probably the biggest one was 6 or 8 feet deep at the deepest. There's a small pit up at the top of this one here. This is again the 4th one, the one to the far east. And there are prospect pits all over this area. It's been very heavily prospected over the years, but I'm not going to deal with virtually any of the small pits and other trenches. There's some modern cat trenches along the ridge, kind of north-south trenches on the east-west ridge. So this will be it for property E8020105. Here we're looking southeast at a collapsed adit. You can see the wood framework that went around the portal. This is an unnamed mine. I believe it would be E80301-1. I'm not sure if it's connected with, say, like the Big Lode mine that's nearby. I'm designating it as a separate site. I believe it's the one shown on the map. It's may be on the Atlanta East or Atlanta West. It's right near the border. It may be the one that shows an adit and a shaft at that site. If there was a shaft here, and there could conceivably have been, there's an open area that we'll look at that could have been a shaft. But irregardless, this will be a separate number. So again, we're looking southeast at the collapsed adit. You can look on up in there where the trough that goes up where the adit collapsed, and again the wood framework around where the portal was. So we'll turn around and look at the dump at this location right outside. It's pretty brushy on down a ways. We'll look at that part of the dump also. It's approximately 150 feet long from where the wood framework is here on to the northwest. But we'll turn around and look at this flat dump area that's right adjacent to us. Here we're looking basically northwest now, out from where that wood framework around the portal is. It's a kind of a broad flat here. It's probably 40 feet or so wide, pretty much the average width of the dump going on down Quartz Creek, or Quartz Gulch. There's no water in Quartz Gulch. It's off over on the side, over about where we're shooting there, right against the hill. The dump probably pushed it over there, but there's no water in it right now. There's water on farther down Quartz Gulch, quite a ways down. We'll deal with that as we get to it. Right in the immediate view, there's some lagging material for the adit, I presume, or possibly for the shaft that was, I believe, was on this site. So there is some evidence of workings going on here. But we'll go down and look at the far northwest end of the dump now. Again, this upper part is pretty brushy, and we'll go take a look at the far end where it basically just terminates right above Quartz Gulch. There we're at the far northwest end of that property, E80301-1. You can see the dump is quite deep right here at the nose, just above Quartz Gulch. We're looking southwest and up into the brush, and the dump disappears. So this will be it for this property. The shaft area, I believe, was just right at, if it was a shaft here, would be right outside where that portal that we looked at earlier, and there is no real evidence of it. It's been, I presume, covered up if that was in fact the site. So this will be it for E80301-1. This is site E80301-2. It's a unnamed mine site. I'm not real sure if it does have a name. There's an awful lot of adits along Quartz Gulch where we're heading downstream. I'm looking basically northeast here at the caved adit. You can kind of get a feel for the scarp. The road to Atlanta downhill is just right up above, right at the top of the frame here. So this is basically just barely below the road, between the road and the creek, Quartz Gulch, which is dry at this point. There's no water flowing in it. So we'll turn around and take a look at this dump and look kind of to the southwest now and get a feel for it. There are two adits at this site. We'll look at the next one. This is the southernmost of the two. Here we're looking out on the dump from this E80301-2. It's a fairly large flat right out in front of the portal for this southernmost adit. We're looking southwest here. The dump goes out and it gets real narrow out just past my pack, out kind of in this area. It's very brushy and hard to see exactly what goes on out there, but it does go over, and it comes real close to the second adit, the northernmost of the two adits, as the northwestern adit, the adit number 2 at this site. So we'll go over and look at adit 2 now, the northwesternmost. Just another note on the southeasternmost of the two adits that we're looking at this E80301-2. You can see the real narrow nature of the dump out at the far northwestern end, and also there's quite a lot of flat mine rail stacked along the dump right here. Several strips of it. You can see these, maybe inch and a half wide strips of metal that were nailed onto planks and made for mine rails. So this is just another note on the southeasternmost of the two. Again, you can see the narrow nature of the dump here, and you can get just a kind of a feel for the second dump is just kind of that dark area out in the background. We'll go over and take a look at it. This is the second adit at this site. This is adit 2 for E80301-2. Again, we're looking northeast at the caved adit. Look up on the bank there. There's a flag, right on an orange flag on the top of the frame there, and that's basically right at the edge of the road that goes downhill in this direction down to Atlanta, the town side of Atlanta. So again, we're looking northeast at this collapsed adit 2 for this site. We'll turn around and take a look at the dump and maybe get a feel for just how the two dumps kind of coalesce at this point. Here we're just north of the portal for the second adit at E80301-2. We're looking at the flat part of the dump. It's not a very big dump in this case. You can see it kind of goes out and curves around. It has been burned right here, kind of a small fire right on the top of the dump. Just a few trees had been burned here. And in the kind of in the distance back here, that, I don't know if you can see back in the rocky area, that's where the adit 1 dump comes over. There's just a small septum between the two, small little draw between. They almost coalesce in that point, and they kind of come together right above Quartz Gulch. Again, Quartz Gulch has no water in it at this point. It looks like it has had water in the past, but right now it's dry. This adit 2 for this site does have a very minor seep coming out of it. It's not enough water to sample. It's just the ground is damp, kind of in a linear area coming from the portal around the dump. Again, for dump 2 or adit 2, the dump of it. So no sample was taken at this site due to the lack of water. It is a small seep, but it's very insignificant. And so again, no water sample was taken. So this will be it for site E80301-2. This is the Big Lode mine. It's HA57. We're looking basically straight west at a collapsed adit. The map indicated there was 2 adits at this site, but I'm thinking that one of the adits has been completely obliterated by a road building or some such thing. I couldn't really definitively locate the other adit, so we'll just deal with one adit at this site, plus a mill site just right directly to the east of me, right below me, where this adit comes right out. what we're doing, again, we're looking basically straight west into the collapsed portal. If you can kind of focus on there's a nice little stream of water coming out, a couple gallons a minute, maybe as much as 3 gallons a minute. It doesn't really amount to much, but I sampled it just for water quality's sake, just to see what really is running there. So again, this is the one adit at the Big Lode mine. We'll turn around and look to the north and see what the dump looked like for this, and then take a look at the mill that's just right down below to the east. Here we're looking north at the dump for the Big Lode mine. There's I could only find truly one adit here. Again, it was collapsed. We're just about where that little stream was discharging from that adit. Looking again north at the dump. It's pretty brushy at the far end. It doesn't really lend itself too well to photographing it. It doesn't show a lot out there. It's about 150 feet long, probably at the very most. And not very wide. It just goes right along the edge of the hill and parallels the hill, kind of going to the north away from the adit, and then dumps off down. It doesn't ever get to Quartz Gulch. It stays quite a ways above it. So we'll take a look now. We'll just kind of pan around to the east from where I am and look at a part of the burned mill for the Big Lode. We'll just pan around, kind of come around to the east, and here we are looking down at the burned mill. We'll get a couple different perspectives of it. We'll get one back looking to the south. Here we're looking almost due east, down onto the flat, and that road in the background there, that's the road down Quartz Gulch that heads on into Atlanta, kind of to the north and northwest. So that you can see scrap metal and burned timbers, and there's burned trees all over the place there. There is possibly mill tails down below. There most definitely has to be mill tails here, but I think I've identified them. We'll get a sample of those. And also, since this little stream that comes out of the adit does reach Quartz Gulch, even though it's fairly small, I'm going to take an upstream and downstream sample of this just to I think that the creek does kind of go through the tailings down below there, or at least it impinges on them. So we'll get another perspective of the mill, kind of looking to the south now, and it's a little bit better to see a stone wall and such. Here we're looking basically due south at the mill at the Big Lode mine. It's HA 57. So we're looking essentially south here. You can see there's a green strip kind of right in the center of the view here. That's where that little stream that discharges from the adit goes down. And it just basically disappears going down through all the rock work and the burned timbers and such of the mill. And it does come out down below, somewhere just below the mill on Quartz Gulch. So we'll get an upstream and downstream sample of that, and possibly a mill tailing sample down below. But it doesn't really cut through the dump in any significant manner. Now you can see the stone wall here, which was part of the upper part of the mill foundation, and quite a bit of burned timbers, and there's scrap metal all over down below. We'll get a view back to the west from down on the flat below the mill now, and just to see give a perspective of how big the site really is. Here we're looking basically west at the mill at the Big Lode mine. It's HA 57. Looking uphill, you can see this stone wall. We got photos of from above, just about where the adit is. Again, here's that real lush green patch coming down. The water kind of disappears in there. The slot for the adit where we took the water sample is basically right in that area, right? So it's basically just right above the mill, straight up hill to the west of the mill. And the water does run down through all this nonsense. It's not visible until it discharges at the bottom, and it does reach Quartz Gulch, and it will be sampled above and below. Quartz Gulch will be above and below where the water enters. It's quite a large flat here. Doesn't look like a lot of structures were on this. There's another kind of a terrace flat up above, about the second level of the mill, and comes around. There's really no structures here. There's a lot of scrap metal and garbage around on this site, but there's no standing buildings. So we'll take a look and see what the mill tails look like, if in fact that's what they are, and if so, we'll sample them. Here we're looking at jig or flotation tails, I believe they are, for the big lode mine. It's HA57. You can see in there's kind of a laminated nature to them, very fine grain. This is just to the north and northeast a little bit of the mill, basically right below it, but a little to the north of it. The area may be in the neighborhood of 40 feet by 40 feet, and the depth of the tailings is kind of hard to say. It doesn't appear to be more than 5 or 6 feet thick, but it's very deceptive on the hillside here, and I'm sure a lot is washed away. So we'll take a sample of these tailings here and run them just to see what they run like. Again, here's another view of the big lode mine, HA57. We're looking basically southeast or southwest here, back up at the mill. We're on the tailings, what I perceive as mill tailings, jig or flotation tails. Just another perspective of what the area looks like. There's quite a bit of scrap metal where the building burned in the recent fire. So we'll this will probably be it for the big lode mine. This is the second adit for the big lode mine, HA57. It wasn't located earlier. It's kind of hidden right in the creek bottom here at Quartz Gulch. It goes into the bank going to the southwest, the sense of the direction we're looking right here, looking right into the portal area. You can see some timbers right in the center of the view there. There's no water discharging from it, although it comes out, and Quartz Gulch goes right in front of it, goes right on down, essentially parallels the creek, and the creek kind of flows over the dump in this direction. We'll turn around and get a look at what the dump from basically the north end of it looks like, and then see just how big it really is. Here we're looking at the north end of the dump for the second adit at the big lode mine, HA57. You can see rail timbers right along the crest of the dump. It's fairly narrow, probably no more than about 15 feet wide, and it's probably 150 plus feet long. It's kind of hard to tell where it really starts. It's right in the creek bottom for quite some distance, and then to the very terminus here, it's probably 150 feet from the portal, approximately that. The Quartz Gulch itself is on the west side. It parallels it, but it's on the west side, and it probably impacts it, impinges on it to a certain extent, but the material is fairly coarse grain, and no sample was taken. Upstream and downstream sample will be taken of on Quartz Gulch itself to see if there is any change in water from one end of the site to the other. So this will be it for HA 57, the big lode mine. Here we're looking east at Adit 1 for the Stanley Mine. I don't have an HA number for it. It'll be designated E8030107. I believe this is the portal here. You can see those slopes to failure behind, kind of a arc where the slope has failed. Right where I believe the adit is, it's located approximately right on the map. What's left is just this tin siding, which I presume was around the portal. The wood framework and such is burned, and so the tin has collapsed there. The dump area, we'll turn around and look at that in a moment and see what it looks like. The area has been logged, just a small portion right here, and I think that the dump area, if it did amount to much, has been disturbed substantially by the logging. Here we're looking south again at the Adit 1 for the Stanley Mine, where the road is a very steep road, comes up from the main road down to Atlanta that follows Quartz Gulch. We'll pan around more to the south and west there and see the dump area should be right essentially where the road is and off the side here. And as you can see, it's been logged somewhat down in this little draw. And I think if the dump did amount to much, it has been substantially disturbed in this area. So I can't even estimate what the size of it used to be. So this will be it for Adit 1 of the Stanley Mine. There are two more adits, one just on to the north of us here, and then one down right on the Atlanta Road. So we'll go get the Adit 2 next. This is Adit 2 for the Stanley Mine. It's designated E80301-7. We're looking southeast at the wooden framework over the portal of the second adit of the Stanley Mine. You can see back in there a little ways. We'll get a little bit closer and look in there. It's mostly cave, but there is a very small opening right at the top, clear in the far distance there, that you can get into it. So we'll take a look inside there now. Here we're looking inside Adit 2 for the Stanley Mine. Again, you can see this very small opening there that you can crawl back in there. I don't know how far it's open, but it is slightly open right there. That very, very small opening, about 2 feet by a foot, maybe 3 feet by a foot. You can get into it, but this pile of rock here pretty much has it blocked. As we look back into the wooden framework that is the portal for this second adit for the Stanley Mine. So now we'll turn around and look at the dump area and see what it looks like. Here we're looking northeast again at the second adit for the Stanley Mine. They're just pan around, and the light colored material you see is basically that's the dump area. So it has been somewhat disturbed by road building and by the mine, or by logging, I'm sorry. So it's very hard to say. It probably goes out from the mine about 30 feet and then bails off the hill, and that's that light colored material you see bleeding off down the hill. So this will be it for the second adit for the Stanley Mine. We'll move on down to adit 3. This is adit 3 for the Stanley Mine. It's going to be designated E80301-7. It's open, but it has a wooden gate pretty much that with a keep out sign on there that, you know, it's pretty obvious. It has been attempted to block it, so it's truly not open and very accessible. It is gated, but I don't believe there's a lock on it. There's a small stream flowing from it, very lush vegetation right out here, and it's probably less than a gallon a minute. You can see the standing water here. Flows right down the road, and then kind of dissipates, you know, as it goes into the road. It doesn't really enter into Quartz Gulch at all, I don't believe, not to any extent. So this we'll look at the dump now, kind of looking north from this adit. Again, here's the adit 3 for the Stanley Mine, and we're just going to pan around kind of to the west and north and look. This is the dump that comes out. It really doesn't get all the way down to Quartz Gulch. It probably does just very slightly right at the very bottom, but I don't think it impinges it in any great extent. So no samples were taken of the dump or of the creek. So this will be it for the Stanley Mine, E80301-7.